If I wasn't able to get my nutritionist straight away, I was like, oh, there you go. You've wasted your workout. Simon Miller, the bald a-hole here, wearing my Flexus tee, the greatest pun I ever came up with, which you can buy going to simonmiller.bigcartel.com. There's a link in the description below. And look, we're just going to put it to bed. I'm not sure we've ever specifically talked about the anabolic window here on the channel before, but it is officially the number one question I get asked. Simon, should I, drink a bunch of carbs and a bunch of protein as soon as I finish working out? Like, is the anabolic window real? Is it not real? I'm reading all these kind of crazy different things. And before we get into it, there are 2 points I want to touch upon. One, if you want to drink a bunch of protein and a bunch of carbs as soon as you work out, whatever the hell you want to do, go for it, man. There is nothing wrong with this. As long as you're eating healthy overall, it's not going to harm you in any kind of a way. I do it. And why do I do it? Because I'm a fat pig and I can't go without 30 seconds without thinking about eating. I think about eating all the time. I said it on a video the other day. If you don't think I'm thinking about cheese, you're massively incorrect. And the second point is that I'm going to try and keep this as basic and beginnery as possible. If you do want to get into the crazy science, there are other tubers out there that will do a far better job than me. And the only reason I mention that is because sometimes people go crazy in the comments. I get it. I'm a buffoon. I'm a moron. I'm an idiot. My parents have told me that for the last 30 years. Don't you think by now I realize? But yes, what is the anabolic window? Well, it's nice and simple. It is telling you that within 30 minutes after you finish training and lifting weights, you need to be drinking protein or getting some protein into your system, and you should be eating some kind of high glycemic carb. Now, the idea behind this is that when you have finished worked out, your muscle fibers are all destroyed, they're all depleted, and you're on the verge of suffering from muscle protein breakdown, which sounds absolutely terrible. However, if you then want to re-enter muscle protein synthesis, which basically means getting bigger, you should drink this protein, you should drink this carb, you should get it into your system as quickly as you possibly can, and then no longer are you in a catabolic state, you have re-energized your anabolic state, and you're going to put on a bunch of lean mass. Doesn't that sound great? I mean, some even describe it even simpler than that, and they say because you are depleted of glycogen, if you eat a bunch of carbs, that will balance out your energy, so all the protein you're poking in will go straight to your muscles. And once again, it just sounds like this dream time period that's just popped up from nowhere. The problem, however, is that while there is logic to it, there ain't no real evidence. And we'll start with this study that I found, but look, there's a bunch of studies you can find, and as I always say, you can find a study to prove everything, but this one had been backed up by a bunch of money and a bunch of people, and what happened was this. They took 10 men, and some had protein before they worked out, and some had protein after they worked out. And have a guess what the results were. Just realized I said 10 men, I meant 10 weeks. I'm an absolute buffoon. But anyway, they had the same diet, and after this 10-week period, while most of them had lost some fat, because I'm going to assume as they went on a diet, they were in a calorie deficit, when it came to how much muscle they had put on, there was no significant difference. I mean, some people are a little bit bigger, and some people weren't a little bit bigger, but that comes down to the individual, and as we've talked about time and time again, you can put 72 million people on the same diet and have them train in exactly the same way, and they're all going to come out the end looking like different eggs. But this ties into a bigger picture in the sense that when you do start diving into studies and evidence and documents that have been written, most trainers or professionals or even doctors say when it comes to trying to put on muscle, you should be far more focused on your pre-workout meal than your post-workout meal. Because again, there's plenty of evidence out there to suggest that if you do have a great pre-workout meal, not only will you have more energy for your workout, so you're going to be more focused and put in more effort to it anyway, but you will actually see better gains. Now again, is that something you should take as read? No, you should go and research and read it, but that's what the numbers are saying. So really it all does come down to muscle protein breakdown, which again sounds terrifying, doesn't it? Muscle protein breakdown. I don't want to have that, but the only time you really need to worry about that in terms of being in the gym is if you are training fasted, because that stands to reason. If you get up at 8 a.m. and you don't do anything for a couple of hours, and then you go to the gym, which I know some people like to do intermittent fasting, etc., then yes, you probably do want to consume some kind of food as soon as you do finish working out, because the dreaded muscle protein breakdown is going to start sneaking up on you, but you don't need a bald a-hole to tell you that. That absolutely stands to reason. You don't have anything in you, and if you're doing it after you've slept for 8 hours or whatever it is, well, you have even less in you. You are essentially an empty shell. But when you talk about people that have eaten through the day and then start training at 4 or 5 p.m., the idea of muscle protein breakdown is so minimum. Like, you may get a little bit of it, but not to the point that as soon as you've done your last rep, you need to run to some kind of blender and blend up some kind of super shake. That just doesn't exist. And look, believe you me, I'd love for it if it did existed. I will take anything to get bigger and more ripped. And once more, I do it because I like eating straight away, but I don't get any benefit from it. And even if I want to pretend there's benefit from it, well, I'm only fooling myself. Which brings us on to our next point, which is the glycogen, right? That's what you keep reading. You got to refill your glycogen stores. You got to refill your glycogen stores. And yes, you do, but you just need to make sure you do it before your next workout and not within 30 minutes. Because I found another study, and again, there's loads of these, I don't want to go over it again, where some people did indeed refill their glycogen right after working out, and other people waited a couple of hours, and when they were tested throughout the next day, have a guess where their glycogen levels were. That's right, they were pretty much bang on. So there was no difference in doing it. But this is great in many ways because it means you have the choice. Do you want to eat straight afterwards? You certainly can. Do you want to wait a little bit because maybe you feel sick or maybe that's just what your mindset tells you to do? Yes, you have options, and that's what you want in life. You want options, because I bet there's going to be some times when you do train, you aren't able to get a protein shake in or whatever straight away, and you don't want to be walking around all stressed. I've done that. I've done that in my life. When I first started getting into this stuff and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I heard these kind of myths, we'll call them. Well, that's probably being a little bit unfair. If I wasn't able to get my nutritionist straight away, I was like, oh, there you go. You've wasted your workout. And that's not true. I don't want you beating yourself up over that, especially if you just smashed it in the gym. You should be proud of yourself. You should be patting yourself on the back. And of course, there are always asterisks to all of this as well. Like, let's say you are a competitive athlete and maybe you're doing 3 a day. So maybe you're training in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. You probably do want to try and get your glycogen and your protein in you as soon as possible, because by the time you get to your next workout, yes, you will be knackered, but that stands to reason. Also, if you are in that bracket, you've probably got people taking care of you and telling you what to do and backed up by science, so you don't need to listen to some moron like me. However, if you are a moron like me and you wanted more information, I kind of felt like we should talk about it. And that's kind of the long and the short of it. I don't want to beat you over the head with information, because I think then sometimes you get even more confused. The other thing that ties into when you see actors, especially training for big roles, they will usually tell you, they're only eating chicken, rice, and broccoli. That's all they ever eat. And they talk about the anabolic window. And maybe that's what they are doing. Maybe they have personal trainers that think it is of benefit. But I think that's the problem with it. It's not of benefit, but it's not of benefit either. So I suppose it comes down to the fact when people tell you must do it. That's what I don't like. You must do it. If you don't do it, all the world is going to come crashing down. And again, that ties into what we were talking about 37 seconds ago. You will start feeling like you've let yourself down, and you haven't. It's the marathon, not a sprint analogy, doesn't apply just to sort of getting progressive gains over time. It also means for stuff like this. To actually see muscle protein synthesis and all these things, you need to be eating well every day, and you need to be consistent. You need to understand it's going to take months and years and not weeks. There is no such thing as, because if there was, like the anabolic window was real, it would mean as soon as you allowed your body to do it and you introduced it into your system, the lean mass gains you would see would be crazy. Because not everybody is taking advantage of this. So it's just something that, I'm not saying it was made up. I'm sure that at one point science kind of did back it up, but we've moved forward. And that's the cool thing about bodybuilding and weight training and going to the gym, the fitness palace of love, is that it does move on and we do evolve. It doesn't mean you can't look to the past and use some of their techniques, because some of them are great and always will be, but you want to kind of try and stay up to date too, so that you can do it in balance with your life. Because that's the hardest thing about weightlifting that no one ever flipping talks about, is you will have kids, you may have money problems, you've got your job to worry about. I mean, for goodness sake, the last year the world just went and cast a global pandemic on you, and some gyms even closed. If you have to try and worry about all of that and getting a good workout in and sort of smashing time when you don't have a DeLorean like Doc Brown, I just think it's a little bit unfair. Now, look, you are well within your rights to disagree with me and say, Simon, I do this in my own life and it works for you. Then keep doing it. But in terms of a grander picture, these are just my thoughts. And please, look, do go in the comments and let me know. Let's have a debate about this. I'm always up for it, but just be nice. If you start anything with, oh, you mother Hubbard, but you don't write that, I'm probably going to get, we're not going to get off on the right foot. Also, like the video, share the video, subscribe, hit the bell ding ding so you know when other videos are going live. There's another video there. It's the weekend. Why not watch it? If you want to flex this tea, the merch link is in the description below, as is Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. If you want to support financially, I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, you take care of yourself. Have a good day. Enjoy your anabolic window, or flip and ignore it. It's totally up to you.